Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the second day of the North American IPv6 Summit 2015. We had some great sessions yesterday. We learned a lot about IPv6, SDN, OpenStack, IPv6 multicasting, 6P, IP address management, and MAP. We have more great sessions coming up today. I'm very excited. For more information about the schedule, please reference the conference program. The lunch will be served today at noon, same place to your right, just behind this wall. We're giving away some cool prizes, a lot of books on IPv6 security. Actually, Scott Hogue is here, so he'll be able to sign a lot of them. Thank you, Scott. And Chip, yes, thank you. And Ed, yes. So, yep, thank you, guys. For those of you attending the virtual platform, again, Scott Hogue is doing a great job moderating the Q&A. So if you're logged in, don't be shy, ask questions, and we'll pass those to the speakers. Please spend time visiting our exhibitors. We're very appreciative of their kind sponsorship. And for those of you here in the room, we adjusted the temperature, so hopefully today is going to be more comfortable for you. Apologize, it was a little chilly yesterday. Very good. Our keynote for today is going to be Mark Costers. Mark is the CTO of the American Registry for Internet Numbers. Mark, welcome. Good luck. Thank you.
So, I'm Mark Costers. I'm the CTO of ARIN, and I've been involved in the internet since 1991. So I like this to be a little bit interactive because I know you're all probably just, hopefully you're starting to get your coffee highs and everything else in the morning. So who was involved in the internet in 1991? Okay, there's a few. Okay, excellent. So I have a story to tell. And this story is about, I was working for a company called Network Solutions at that point. Network Solutions ran this thing called the DDN NIC. And it's at one point the U.S. government realized that most of this stuff was non-military related and that they wanted the National Science Foundation to run the non-military portions of the DDN NIC. It became this thing called the InterNIC, and I was the lead engineer for the InterNIC back in those days. And I'm sorry, I was working my tail off. So I was working 18-hour days, 19-hour days, hardly getting enough sleep, 6 days a week, you name it. I had one other engineer working for me and maybe 5 customer service reps. So it was a crazy, crazy time. And you're kind of wondering, if you worked for startups before, you kind of know what, you hope for a payoff. And you hope that your product is going to be a success. And back in those days, really most people didn't know what the internet was. My wife certainly didn't, and she wasn't very happy with me. In fact, she would say, "Hey, look, are you ever going to come home?" And so I actually started working from home on a laptop, which at that point was kind of hard because the only laptops would run like Windows 95 or whatever. But finally got Linux running on one of those laptops, brought it home, started sitting on the couch, and was watching TV one night, and I saw a Pontiac commercial, and they actually had a URL associated with that commercial. And at that point, I realized that the internet's arrived because it made main screen. I said, Lisa, named my wife, "Hey, look, there's the internet." And she's like, "What? HTTP : what?" But it's become a part of our everyday lives now. And it's really quite amazing. And we can see this on the amazing success of the internet, right? We have almost 3 billion users, 4.5 hours per user online per day. That's amazing. And 5.5% of the GDP for the G20 countries. This is really, really, really amazing, seeing this growth. Considering it started out really small, 56K lines or less, seeing what the internet is today is really amazing. But we have a disaster looming, right? Who knows that we're running out of v4 addresses? Okay. Anyone not know? Oh, really? Okay. So, yeah, so we're running out of v4 addresses. And so how are we going to continue to grow this internet thingy? With all of this, all this success we're having? Well, the original plan was, okay, we're going to go to v6 because we're going to run out of v4 addresses. We only had 4 billion or so addressable nodes. So what we're going to do is we're going to come out with this new protocol v6. And this started in the early 90s. And they said, hey, look, we're going to make this transition occur, and we're going to do it way before we ran out. Well, is that exactly how it's happened? No. v6 is still in its infancy, unfortunately. We're still waiting for it. And we're hoping that someday that v6 will take off before the v4 pool actually really truly depletes. So this is a mistake that we're actually dealing with. And frankly, this is probably different than some of the other talks you have, but this is sort of some of the reality that we're seeing out there, is that, hey, look, if v6 was really to be taken off, we would see about 80% of the traffic on v6 right now. We're not seeing that. At ARIN, I was pleasantly surprised when we got 12% of our traffic is over v6. And I know that others are, that's an increase, which is good, but that's not good enough. So today's plan is, who knows? What's going to happen to this? What's going to happen to the growth of the internet? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some slides here to show you what the community is doing and what ARIN is doing as a result. So there was a lot of mistakes made with v6. There was no backwards compatibility. It started out with v6 having a backwards compatibility. It was quickly ruled out. Lots of discussions, a lot of transition plans. Most of them didn't make it. And the only thing that we have is dual stack. And a v6 only host can't talk to a v4 only host. You have to be dual stack to actually communicate across the line. So you have to provision your entire network to do v4 and v6, or have some sort of NATs in the middle. In dual stack, you want to configure your host to prefer v6 to v4. And when traffic volumes dwindle, then you drop your support for v4. But as we started going through this operationally, we realized that we had some issues, right? So v6 islands, there's lots of them out there. So this actually caused some issues. We have happy eyeballs now that actually has reduced this, but there's a lot of legacy code out there that still prefer v6 over v4, and we still have some issues with that. And this is really slow. We also have problems with bridging and also with tunneling, mainly with MTU. So what do you do as an ISP? Do you run v6? Do you run v6 only network? A few people are doing this, which is great. But as you do this, you realize that there's going to be some issues that you're going to have with connectivity. Now at ARIN, we run both v4 and v6, and we occasionally have issues with people not being able to reach us. And the likelihood with those users is that they're running both v4 and v6, and there's something going wrong with one of the stacks, but we're not sure exactly where it is. And when we've been able to diagnose it, because these are sort of transient, we're finding out that at times the v6 network is a little bit flaky, whereas the v4 network has been fairly robust. Is anyone hearing something different than that? Am I shocking anyone by saying this? So what it really means is that we really, really got to get the v6 network as operationally as robust as we do with v4. So meanwhile, everybody else just waits, saying, oh my gosh, I got a growth plan I got to worry about, and I don't have v4. So what are we going to do? So one of the things that could be happening is putting out large-scale NATs, right? And if you talk to ISPs out there, or actually you talk to the manufacturers, you talk to the large router manufacturers, and you say, hey, so what are people buying? they're saying that ISPs are buying lots of GSLB solutions as part of their global load balancers to actually handle these large-scale NAT problems. Even if you talk to some of the large ISPs who are actually dealing or promoting V6, and you talk to their ops guys and say, so, hey, do you have any of these not GSLB, I'm sorry, LSN or large-scale NATs in your networks? Their response has been, yes, we have to deploy those, but we hope to not have to deploy too many. So there's definitely, we have this sort of dichotomy happening. V6 is happening, but there's also this reality of having large-scale NATs. It's also occurring. And if you look, if you've been following Microsoft, especially like with their Xbox, hasn't worked through a large-scale NAT, but now does. So they're definitely sort of preparing for this particular type of future. And I hope it doesn't happen, but it does. And also we see this today on mobile devices. Now they're a little bit more captive than our laptops and other computers, but there's definitely a lot of them that are behind NATs right now. So what is there here in the community? V6 is slow. Progress is being made. People are promoting it. We're promoting it too. Lots of ISPs are purchasing large-scale NAS CGN boxes. There's a market for V4 space. And there's two types. There's rent by month, and there's purchasing outright. Has anyone come to you and asked you to, hey, I got some IP addresses to sell? Okay. How about to rent? And anyone have that?
You've seen it.
You've seen it. Okay. Cool. I talked to a user or a person about 6 months ago who actually was active on the market in both purchasing outright V4 addresses, but he was also renting, which I thought was pretty interesting. He was renting per month per IP, and he was promoting a particular type of service, and he was legitimate. He wasn't a spammer. But he was actually out there, and it was quite interesting talking to him. And so I asked him, so where are these marketplaces? And they're all kind of underground right now. You don't see them, a lot of them. They're starting to become more out there, but they're definitely not easy to find. So why is there a little immediate need for V6? Some of the claims that have happened in the past are not true or taken over by events. V6 gives you better security. Was true at the very beginning, but V4 is actually, you can get V4 security products on no problem right now. V6 gives you better routing. Some people promote that. It gives you a faster internet. And that's somewhat subjective, maybe true, depends. For some ISPs that I've talked to, I said, so is this really true? And he says, well, we really have spent a lot more time tuning our V6 network than we have our V4, so it gives us better access or better speeds. But overall, they're following the same physical infrastructure. So who knows? Some positive things. V6 allows end-to-end networking to occur again, has more address bits, and it's cheaper per IP address. And really, that's really going to be, in my opinion, the thing that's going to make V6 take off. It's going to be cheaper per IP, and that's going to move ISPs into actually doing V6. So here you have your V6 timeline, and you all know about it, and it goes much beyond this. And here's our timeline. And what I like to do is I like to describe a little bit what ARIN has done over the last couple of years. Well, actually, last number of years, 12 to be exact. So in 2003, we started, hey, we got to run V6. We got T1 from Sprint. And at that point, it was kind of like the internet of old. It was kind of like a good old boys network. You had to know somebody who knew somebody to set up V6. It was nobody. You talk to someone and say, hey, I'd like to buy IPv6 from your rep. They had no idea what it was. It wasn't on their price sheet. So this is very much a sort of underground effort. It was a very it was an interesting effort on our side that we had a Linux router with a T1 card associated with it. We had OpenBSD firewall. We had a www, DNS, and FTP servers, and it was all segregated. It was not dual stack at that point in time in our networks. We had a lot of path MTU issues, routing issues. It did improve over the years, but it was definitely very flaky at the beginning. 2004, we said, hey, look, Sprint was cool. It's a nice experiment. Let's go to a larger ISP. We actually leveraged a connection with VentSurf at that point. Again, still good old boys network, putting it all together. We upgraded from doing a homegrown solution using a Linux box with a T1 card in it to a Cisco. Again, having the BSD firewall, and again, segregated network because of security concerns. Again, there's a lot of path MTU issues and a lot of routing issues. 2006, we got a little bit more serious about it. Actually started peering at Equinix and Ashburn over V6 and started building out our network at that point. Again, it was a little bit better, but still not quite right. In 2008, I said, okay, look, we're going to redo this. We're going to do dual path everything, and we started putting that into place. And our network today is dual path, or is dual stacked across the entire network. So we went ahead and put in, one of the things I'm going to talk about is our Brocade load balancers. Anyone here from Brocade? Okay, I'm going to speak not too nicely about them for a little bit. So we actually, we ran Brocade load balancers. They were rumored to run ran V4 just fine. V6 support was in beta. They said, hey, run our stuff, we'll be okay. We ended up being their alpha site for a lot of their V6 work. And it was fairly painful, especially when you're trying to run a production network with alpha code. So going back to this, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later, but it was one of the things I did do, because we want to have every service we have over V4 also over V6. We realized that we just couldn't offer some of the capabilities that we truly want to offer to the community until we basically throw those boxes to the curb and replace them. So what we also do is ARIN has 2 meetings a year, one of which ARIN actually runs everything, runs the network and everything else. The other network is actually partnered with Nanog, which Nanog takes care of the network. Our networks within ARIN's meeting spots have been V6 enabled since 2005. Some of them have been native, some of them have been tunnels. It's been a testbed for transition technologies. We've tried various things like NATBT, CGN, NAT-Lite, IVI, and et cetera. We've actually gone through the time where we said, okay, let's turn V4 off and be a V6 only network and see who breaks. It's about the only time I actually saw everybody sort of lift their heads from their laptops. So, actually afterwards, when someone came up to me and says, we got to stop doing this, I got to work. That was going V6 only. There was a lot of issues at that point across all devices except for Windows. Windows has been very robust with their V6 solutions, with DNS, with DHCP-V6, et cetera. Macs have been a little bit behind the scenes, but they're doing much better now. In fact, you can't turn off V6 on your Macs now, right? Unless you go into the command line interface, which is pretty cool. So our challenges within ARIN, we've had challenges with our VPN product, OpenVPN. There's tap and tone interfaces. It worked. V6 worked on one but not the other for a long time until 3.5, where both interfaces again were working over V6. Middleware boxes, and this is where we had problems with our load balancers with Brocade. Didn't have one-to-one feature sets, and it limited our availability to do like SSL offloading, which we really, really want to give to the community. The community's asked for it for years, and this is something that we hope to put out this year with a new set of load balancers. So the reason why I bring these things up is I'm an enterprise customer. Many of you perhaps are too. And are you experiencing the same sort of issues that ARIN has? Yes? No? Yes? Okay. So you can see why this transition is fairly hard. And we have dual stacked. The two protocols don't talk to each other. Vendors say they claim they support it, but they really don't. We have a lot of work to do yet to make this happen. So as we go through this, and so people say, well, it just moved to v6. But if you just say that to someone that's uninitiated, especially in like a third world country or something like that, that's a hard sell for them on trying to make that happen. They're just trying to make the network work, much less doing v6. So one of the things that we've kind of tuned our message a little bit is saying, hey, look, you want to prepare for v6. You want to get ready for it. You want to make sure your gear is ready for v6 because you're probably going to put it in the ground or have it out there for a long period of time before you replace it again. And you're going to move to v6 eventually because at some point v4 is going to get too expensive for you to actually acquire. And so that's kind of my thought. That you want to get to v6, you want to start preparing now because equipment lasts a long time. There's some equipment at ARIN, for example, is good 5 to 7 to 10 years old. Not all of it. I'm replacing most of it. But there's definitely some old equipment. I'm sure you all have old equipment in as well. And frankly, we also need to have more experience as a community to make it happen. So here's the call to action from my perspective is ISPs should be doing this now. Universities should be teaching and making IPv6 enabled and available. I went to one university and we were trying to set up a v6 network there and we were trying to make it tunneled. They were v4 only, but they had 3 layers of NAT between their students and the rest of the internet. And we tried to put v6 initially on their students' network. We couldn't do it. We had to keep on popping particular layers of NAT off until we finally get a v6 tunnel working for the students. And I actually talked to the guy who headed up IT. I said, hey, look, don't you want your students to understand v6? Isn't this a great place to make this happen? If so, you got to open this up. And his response is, I have to protect my students. And his response was, hey, the way of doing this with me is having multi-layer NATs. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Here you have a university, and a fairly sizable university, actually having that sort of behavior. Businesses should be asking for v6 support in all their gear and services that they purchase. Actually, this is one of the things that ARIN is trying to do as well in terms of everything that I put out from ARIN. I run engineering for ARIN, and both development and operations. And one of the things that I have to do with every service that we offer has to be over v4 and v6. We also ask for all our vendors to be v4 and v6, all the way down to the cleaning people. So maybe they're not v4 enabled yet. So, but you know what I mean. So this is a vendor opportunity that we try to take advantage of. And we also are sort of promoting through various areas of actually working with application developers to integrate v6 support within their enterprises. So end users, they may be behind CGNs. It's going to impact their speed and performance. They don't want to lose in those real-time games, COD gamers in particular. They're going to see this speed degradation. And they're going to say, hey, look, I want v6. I want to have the speed at home that I had once before. I want to bypass this CGN. How do I go ahead and do this? And so that sort of thing, when those things are started unveiled, we're going to start seeing more demand for that, in my opinion. We'll start seeing better application support and less support calls for v4. Because if you're behind a CGN, something that doesn't work, you're going to call that ISP, say, hey, what's wrong here? So what is ARIN doing about all this types of realities? One is we're starting to see lots of transfers on v4 space. And what I'd like to also end up is with v6 allocations. So I did not check this morning, but last week we were at 0.24. I think we're way underneath that now. I think it's 0.23. Okay, oh, that's not too bad. So and you can see that there's not much left v4 space, not much at all. We'll probably be out this summer, definitely this fall. for virgin space. We have a bunch of networks that are held in quarantine that are being held until their quarantine period is over, and then they're going to be released back to the free pool. There's 1/10 that's open for a dedicated IPv4 block to facilitate v6 deployment. It allows people to go ahead and bootstrap their network with v6 using v4 as a base. And then we have 220/24s for micro allocations, specifically exchanges. So one of the things that the Registration Services Department has seen is there's been actually an increase in v4 requests as we get towards the end day, the end run-out day. We're seeing a large increase in transfers. In fact, RIPE, when they ran out of v4 space and actually went to a different model, they actually saw a huge increase in transfers. And we anticipate seeing the same sort of increase as well. Sort of reallocation from people who didn't need as much as they thought they did to someone else who really needs it more. And correspondingly, we're seeing 8% decrease in v6 requests. So if you want to grow your network and you have a couple of choices for v4, you can check ARIN inventory and see if there's any space available, put your request in. You can go on a waiting list and hope that ARIN has some space returned that they can reissue to you. You can explore market transfers using a specified transfer listing service, STLS here, or you can request v6. V4 waiting list, this occurs when we can't, you have a justified request for say like a /12, and we don't have any space available for that anymore. You can be put on a waiting list to say, okay, if a /12 comes available, I'll be the first to get it. So that's the way that particular item works. Older requests will be fulfilled first, and it's all based on size. So if someone asks for a /24, and it's a little bit later, it comes out a little bit later, but there's a /24 available, they are the ones that's going to get first. And you have one allocation request per every 3 months, and that's all written in policy. Specified transfer listing service is really a market-based approach. You have the waiting list saying, hey, look, I want to get space from ARIN, and I've met your requirements for getting space, but I'm going to wait until I get the space. Or you can go into the sort of the marketplace where you can participate. You know, we have listers, those people who have address space are willing to say, hey, look, I want to perhaps sell it. Needers, those who are asking for more IP space, and facilitators, which are like the realtors, helping the needers and listers get together. So its major uses are matchmaking and also maintaining pre-approval for transactions arranged outside of STLS. And that's actually where a majority of these things are happening today, is outside of STLS. So we have different types of transfers. There's this thing that within the ARIN community is called the NRPM, Number Resource Policy Manual. This manual is put together by the community, driven by the community, voted on by the community for policies within it. And this is the guidebook that ARIN uses to put out allocations. And it's put together by ARIN AC. Mr. Farmer here is from the ARIN AC. And I think Owen DeLong was here yesterday, who's also on the ARIN AC. So these guys actually make policy that's actually placed in the NRPM, the Number Resource Policy Manual, and those are the policies that we follow. There's 3 types of transfers that can occur. One's mergers and acquisitions. This is a case where a company is sold to some other company, and all the assets go along to that new home. The next one is transfer to specified recipients, and this is where you've decided to release your space and give it to someone else, and you specified who that person is. And the third one is inter-RIR transfers. There's 5 regional registries around the world. ARIN provides service to North America, or actually US and Canada, and parts of the Caribbean. And and there's 4 other regional registry that serves other parts of the world. And this allows space to be transferred from regional registry to regional registry. Right now, if you want to do transfers from region to region, there's only one that we actually can provide that service to, and that's based on a policy that they need to have a reciprocal needs-based policy system in place. APNIC has that. RIPE just has put that in place, and I think this summer we'll start doing inter-RIR transfers with RIPE. So you have the Asia Pacific region served by APNIC, and soon RIPE, allowing for transfers to occur between the various registries.
Technically, what's the driver for doing that? I mean, you can announce RIPE space out of the U.S.
Yes.
Is it just to consolidate so you're not paying RIPE and ARIN? Annual dues or just housekeeping? Or?
That's a really good question.
Please repeat the question.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So the question is, why do we have these regions for this space, essentially?
And why would you transfer?
And why would you transfer that space from regional registry to regional registry? I think it's the regional registries would put into place to allow for more localized policy to be put and common language were the sort of the main drivers that allowed the regional registries to occur in the various regions. And a lot of these, I don't know what the motivations are on the transfers that have occurred, why they wanted to go from ARIN to APNIC, for example. But they probably wanted to be closer to home and had more sort of control over the regional registry than they would outside. If they were in the APNIC region, the Asia Pacific region, and here we're serving North America and parts of the Caribbean, they might feel a little bit disenfranchised. So here you can see the number of transfer requests that we've had, both V4, V6, and transfer requests. You can see that transfer requests have gone up quite a bit. V4 space has gone up slowly, and V6 space has actually decreased. So let's go a little bit through the transfer for specified recipients. Now this is within region, right? So you have V4 space or V6 space, and you want to transfer it from your company to another company, and it's sold or given away or whatever. There's various policies that need to be put in place, and you can see these particular policies in terms of no disputes, not received addresses for the last 12 months prior for the source, and ineligible for the upcoming 12 months. And the recipient must demonstrate a need for 24-month supply. In our IRR transfers, and this is the sort of the interesting case that's sort of late breaking and changing quite a bit, based on us just allowing ARIN, allowing APNIC or APNIC, and us agreeing to doing transfers about a year ago. Everything has transferred out from ARIN to the APNIC region. There has not been a transfer in from ARIN to APNIC. RIPE, since they've had a needs-based transfer system, system put in place for getting space, we've worked it out, and that's going to start this fall once they have their software in place. They saw a huge run on space when dealing with transfers when they ran out, and they want to make sure they automate this inter-RIR transfers in place. Yes, a question?
I had a question from online. For ARIN, when are they going to start following what RIPE has done with transfers between private entities and not use the middleman other than order of transfer?
Okay. So to make sure, does that sort of disqualify needs-based sort of justification then? Yeah, it's really it's the gist of it. So ARIN, as part of its transfers, requires, as part of policy, that you have to have a justification of requiring need for that space. So the transfers that were occurring in the RIPE region, there was no assessment of need. It just occurred. ARIN doesn't have that in its policy. It requires that it's need-based to receive space. Did I get that right, David?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You're welcome.
And RIPE's changing that, you say?
RIPE has changed their policies, I presume, to make it needs-based requirement as well to receive space. And that was part of the agreement that the regional registries put in place to allow inter-RIR transfers that both have reciprocating needs-based policy systems put into place. So here's a reality check. Reports say that current asking prices are around $10 per IP address. I've heard people say as low as 8. I've seen as high as 24. And the prices will probably likely rise as we run out of V4. Supply is not guaranteed, of course, and of course, the less supply you have, the higher the demand, the higher the price. Temporary measure, this is all temporary, right? When people start moving to V6 and V6 network becomes more robust, then V6 will become easy because it's abundant and very easy to qualify for. And so that's what I want to go through is qualifying for V6, just to show you how easy it is to get to V6. First, a few definitions. Allocate. So this is an intention to assign and allocate to others. This is mainly for ISPs. So if you want to allocate, get an allocation from ARIN, then you are an ISP and you plan to assign or allocate, assign to an end user or allocate to another ISP below you. Assignment. This is mainly for end users or enterprise institutions that don't plan on doing any reallocation further on down the line. Those are the two types. And of course you have your ISPs, which try to define ISPs, but those are the ones who allocate to other ISPs or end users, and end users assigned to themselves, essentially. So for ISPs, qualifying for V6 is easy. You have to have a V4 allocation or intend to multi-home or have a technical justification which shows 50 assignments made within 5 years. That is really easy, folks, to get V6 space from us. That is really easy. If you have V4 allocation already, you're good. You intend to multi-home, you're good. Or you have technical justification, you're just as good. One of those three you have to make, and you can get space. For end users, just as easy. Have a V4 direct assignment, which means that you didn't get it from the ISP, but you also got it from ARIN. You intend to multi-home, or you have 2,000 V6 addresses to be used or 200 V6 subnets. And the final thing is, or you say that have some sort of technical justification why you can't give provider assigned IPs, use them within your networks. That renumbering is too hard, that sort of thing. So these are the things that ARIN will use as its policy guidance to give out space. It is really easy. Even though it's really easy, you can see over time that we're continuing to see growth. The line in black is the percentage of our members. ARIN is a membership-based organization. When you get space from us, you become a member. You have the possibility of becoming a member. And you can see from in 2010 that 80% of ARIN members at that point were V4 only. And 20%, of course, were both V4 and V6. Now that's almost even out, where you have the percentage V4 only is around 55%, and the ones that are both V4 and V6 is at 45%. So you can see that things are starting to move in that direction with V6. However, V6 over time, you can also see that the number of allocations and assignments we have peaked in 2011 and has gone down since. And I don't understand why. So, as a sort of a summary, V4 is going to have this demand. And its price is going to be pretty substantial. And as people start realizing that cost is going to be pretty high, people are going to start moving to V6, and they're going to start realizing how easy it is to get V6 from us. And if you want to find out more, you can go to these various sites. And I'll leave this on the screen. We have various ways of learning more about v6, get IPv6 info, Team ARIN, etc. Most of the social media stuff that everybody else does as well. But you can see that we're trying to promote it as well. And I think many of you are very active in many of the wikis that we have out there, promoting both v6 and explaining why some really cool things can happen with v6. And finally, here's a slide on operational guidance by the Internet Society on v6 Nanog with their archives and best common practices that they're putting out is called BCOP. And DREN, as a v6 only shop, has always been very good at looking at, hey, let's run this thing v6 only and see what happens, see what breaks. And they've done a really good job at that. So, any questions? Oh, sure.
Sorry for asking so many questions.
Yeah.
This is kind of a comment, a question to others. I have CenturyLink DSL at home, and I've noticed the last month or so when I go to Google Maps, it stops painting stuff. It'll paint half my tiles and not. I run all these speed tests, plenty of speed up, plenty of speed down. I suspect, and I was curious if other guys have seen this, if that's CGN just running out of ports for me. Because I know Google Maps has got to open up a whole bunch of ports. So I was just curious if you know anything about that, or if you've seen, I mean, talking about the end user experience and what they're subjected to with V4 and all these technologies that residential broadband is putting in place to cope with the depletion of V4. So anyway, I'll kind of take that offline. Okay. The other question is the STLS, that's kind of your non-money exchanging marketplace?
That's correct.
So it's kind of like an Adrex type thing, except there's no money. That's your official ARIN.
That's correct.
Okay.
So no money exchanges on this. I think ARIN charges like $500 for a transfer. So whereas at marketplaces, I have no idea how much they charge to make people meet. Yes.
Did I understand your last slide there correctly, that people have been getting IPv6 allocations and then returning them?
Where's that? On this?
That one right there, is that what
No, this is the number of assignments and allocations made per year.
Okay, per year.
Okay,
so
per year.
Not
so
a cumulative.
So it's not cumulative. Okay. It's over time, but you're right. It's kind of a little bit misnomer here. Yeah, I can see your point of confusion there. But no, that's over time. You can see that the peak was in 2011, and where the number of assignments and allocations have gone down since then. That's a dramatic drop. It's an interesting drop. And it says one of two things. One is, I got my V6 and I'm good to go. I don't need to come back for a while. Or it means that I'm not quite ready for V6 yet. And there's plenty of people in that camp.
So a comment on the message to third world countries or those that don't have advanced internet service access yet. Yep. Get your thoughts on maybe the business case and opportunity to invest in the second internet set of technologies instead of the legacy set of technologies is a leap ahead for infrastructure and for business opportunity, economic advantage, all of that. Are you seeing that message out there, or any comments on that?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So the Caribbean in particular is one of the areas that we serve, and there's a couple of dominant players in that. One has put out V6, one has not. So it depends on which ISP you have as your upstream, whether or not you can actually provide that type of service. So there's definitely some challenges in that region. They suffer from a lot of things that we're blessed with here in the United States. Number one is that they've suffered through an issue where vendors have gone down there with basically old equipment that's not being sold here and said, hey, look, I'll sell this to you. And then they're kind of like burdened with that particular piece of equipment, which is, I've heard from numbers of people out there. The other thing that's gone on is we've been promoting V6, but they are struggling with V4 as well. And they don't have a huge pent-up demand down there yet. But the message has gone out, hey, look, you got to get ready for V6. If you want to do it, we know the ISPs that do provide V6 to those islands, and we'll help you with that.
I was curious how many enterprise customers. You had the chart on the ISPs. Have you ever graphed the enterprise?
I do not have the. I do not have those. This is an aggregated set, so I know I do not have that handy.
That's aggregated there.
That's
ISP
aggregated.
and
Yes.
enterprise. Okay.
Yes. But this is members. This.
I
Yes,
meant
primarily
members. I
ISPs.
guess members was my question. So how many enterprise members do you have? Curious.
I couldn't venture to say, unfortunately.
Just a follow-up comment. So in America, there's a whole effort for national broadband plan access. And so there's those that don't have advanced internet services here in America too. It's all largely around the metropolitan statistical areas.
Yeah.
So that infrastructure leap ahead is an advantage for literally rural America. Just as a message, perhaps, to carry forward.
Good point. Very good point.
Okay, Mark, this is Augie. A few questions. First of all, great job on the presentation.
Thank you.
It was great to share your experience of what ARIN has done deploying IPv6 as an enterprise. The first question is, you listed, I think, about 20/16s that are in that category, quarantines. What's the definition of quarantines?
Quarantine means that we have this period where they've not paid, but yet we haven't released them back to the free pool, for example, or there's some sort of other issue that may be miscellaneous in nature, why those things haven't been put back into the free pool.
So they're really not available.
Leslie at the ARIN meeting last week gave some very good, full, detailed definitions. Mark's the technical guy. I would direct you to the online stuff for that from the meeting, and you can get all the details.
Yeah.
But just to summarize, they're not really available.
That's correct. They're not available.
At the moment. Perhaps they will be at some point in the future. Great. And next question, what's going to happen? You were showing that graph of exactly 0.24, Class A. What's going to happen when it goes to 0.0? What can members expect when they make requests?
So you have a couple options. One is you can be on a wait list, where when that space becomes available again through either the quarantine period, some of the IP space that's in the quarantine area actually becomes released. You can be first come first serve if you match that size, or you can go be part of the marketplace, be part of STLS, or you can go out and find one of those sort of meet me places and pay for IP space. But if you buy space, make sure and they'll tell you this too, you need to be pre-qualified by ARIN to get that space, because we have a needs-based policy in place for getting space.
Thank you. Maybe you can move to that slide again with the number of members have V4 and V6 delegations.
Yep.
Actually, the other one that shows like the peak in 2011.
Yes.
Yeah, just an observation. We've been doing this North American IPv6 Summit for 7-8 years now, and we're actually seeing exactly the same number of attendees. So early was very small, few people, maybe 10, 20 people in 2007. And then I think in 2011 we had close to 500 people attending this event. So we're kind of seeing exactly the same trend, which is kind of interesting. So just an observation. Well, thank you. Any other questions?
Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Yeah.